Hey guys, we're back on NPS Focus. You got me and Keith. You got the troublemakers now. If you run DNS Live, you only had 1.5 because Shannon can be pretty good, but we have to riled up to make her bad, don't we?
Yes, you must lead her into it. So.
I know. It's kind of like she can be really, really good, and then I can just kind of drag her down and then pull back up.
Right.
We're so bad. So we're wrapping up Ancient Mysteries. I think we've already started Cryptids Week this week. So, let's kind of wrap up Ancient Mysteries for everybody and get into the fun stuff.
Well, we've been talking a lot about pretty much everything with Ancient Mysteries. I mean, we've really gone the gamut, from Amelia Earhart back to, the Anunnaki. So, I mean, it's just been kind of a wide scale, and now we're into the cryptids, and the crypto team is really getting into some really lesser known, very global cryptids, which is wonderful because I like to see how things kind of tie in per continent, you know what I mean? I think it's amazing. Again, like back to the Anunnaki, the star people, we have those correlations, all over the globe in just different formats, for different cultures. So the cryptids, like the Yeti, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, there's basically, it's linear across the board. It's, just culturally different. So I'm very excited what Ted and Jen and Eddie and those guys are bringing to the table. They came up with an amazing master list of opportunities. I know, right? I asked them for 20 to 30, and I think I got 60, maybe 80.
There's like more out there. When I first started with NPS as a rep, not as a whole, we didn't have a lot going on in crypto. We had one person that was dedicated to it, but we didn't see a whole lot about it. And it seems like now we have this little 3-man team on it, man. It's like crazy over there. I mean, just this week, it's funny because, you guys probably already know this, but I do all the graphics for NPS. And so when you're seeing everybody post their discussion week and they've got their little graphics out there, I've kind of done the background work on that. Well, I get stuck, like for Ancient Mysteries, I got stuck because I'd start researching to find a picture to put in the graphic, and then I'd have to start reading. And then the more I read, the more I got stuck into it. So the more I wanted to learn about Stonehenge, and the more I wanted to learn about everything else that was on that list. With cryptids, it got worse because now I'm seeing these creatures I'd never heard of. So, when I'm looking for pictures to put out there, I want you guys to be able to see them so that you can kind of put 2 and 2 together as well for the week. But it's very interesting how, like this week, for example, for Nicole, she's got the short person, Bigfoot, the Quinkin, the Wittigo, the Wild Man, Yeti, the Abominable Snowman, and the Water Baboon. Well, in looking at all these pictures, it's hilarious how they all look like man animals, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. They all look so much alike, but they all have different histories and beliefs behind them. So I think that's what's kind of cool about cryptids is we get to learn a lot more. I'm not going to ruin it and tell you guys who's next week because you guys need to focus on this week. But we do have some really cool cryptids coming up. And it's just, I probably wouldn't be one of those that goes out there and looks at, a cryptid or goes to hunt for one or anything like that. But I love reading about them. And so I'm kind of fascinated and kind of happy that we get to do this whole month. Kind of, I hate to say it, but can we get away from ghosts and hauntings and talk about the cryptids? I'm tired of ghosts.
Well, there's so many variables too. Like, the hauntings, you've got, the residual and all that sort of stuff. Well, with the cryptids, my God, they just run the gamut. You've got everything from, mammals to marsupials to aquatics. And the aquatics is what I really am interested in.
Yes.
And simply because of the fact, God.
You and your phone every show.
No.
Guys, quit calling her. She's busy.
But kids, it's my hideous little children, and they know what I'm doing. Well, anyway, back to the aquatics. The reason I focus more on the aquatics and lend a lot more interest to that is basically because of the scuba diving that my husband and I do, and the fact that so little of what's going on in the ocean is truly known. They found bull sharks up the Mississippi. They found an octopus in Lake Michigan. So, yeah. So, I mean, the interesting thing is we know that the animals that we've classified and acknowledged right now have traveled. Could you imagine, what a bottom level, 2,500 foot deep animal is doing? I mean, there is so much out there. And secondarily, here in Colorado, we have a new classification of animal because the elk bred with some deer.
Oh, really?
Very interesting. Well, now you know if the animal species that are landlocked are doing that, what's to say that that's not happening aquatically? So, from something very old to something very new, what's happening? And these animals are probably reproducing like that.
Somebody's in trouble. We can't even get her started for her being interrupted.
Watch, he's going to call right back because he just got scolded. He just got scolded. Watch, he'll call right back. But Mom, I click.
Click. Don't you just love our kids?
Oh.
They're talking in the chat room about tagging you on Facebook so your photo go off. I'm like, stop it.
Do not. Any reps call me. Seriously, any reps call me and they're in for a world of shits. I love you.
We'll get to do, you'll do a little extra wall work this week.
Oh, yeah. I have, that's one thing I don't spring shit on people. When it's on there, it's on there. When your stuff is due, your stuff is due.
Hey, you know what? My stuff was in and I still got harassed today.
You get harassed, period. That's your job. What are you talking about?
Y'all, I want you to see something. Sunday, Diva spent all day on NPS homework. All day. I was knocking that shit out left and right. I was getting my graphics done. I got down, I think I had 3 things left on my list. Okay? I get on a 2-hour call with Candy. This was my list. That's tight, y'all. That's tight. You can see what's kind of crossed out. Kind of. Yeah.
Don't be a crybaby.
I get harassed. I'm not crying about it. Because you know what? I'll be like, no, I'm busy. I can't get on the page. No, I'm busy.
No, Ray. You know what?
Don't tag me on that photo. Don't do it. Do it.
We get stuff done. And NPS is growing by leaps and bounds, and that's because our perspectives are opening up so much more broadly. I think we've kind of lifted the veil on a lot of things. When people say cryptids, what do you think? Loch Ness, and you think Bigfoot, right? Yeah.
And the Kraken. Isn't that how you say it? Kraken.
The Kraken. Yeah. There is a global phenomenon, though, folks. You know what I mean? And every culture has their spin on it, and a lot of it has to do with their spiritual and religious, contexts. It's kind of like the pantheons, for the Wiccans and pagans and things like that. They're basically very similar, all of them. It just kind of depends on where you connect, So, and this global phenomenon has got to have some kind of basis, you would think, and there are tens of thousands of new species being discovered in the rainforest every single year. You can't tell me that one of these things that somebody's thought up isn't out there somewhere.
Right. Well, you know what I found interesting? Dee and I were talking about it at dinner the other night. It was so funny because I'm like, you know what? Bigfoot's also called a skunk man. He's also called this. He's also called that. He's called Sasquatch, whatever. And he's like, well, he's only in one certain part of the world. And I go, do we know that?
That's not true.
How many other people have talked about or seen drawings similar? And so when we're talking about them moving around and migrating, how do we know that they're just in one location?
I don't think they're migrating. I really do. They may migrate on their continent. Like Washington. Washington and Oregon are dense forests. Colorado used to be. It's not so much like that anymore. We've had so many fires, and there's so much beetle kill in the trees and stuff. I wouldn't think that would make a very suitable habitat. It's just not dense enough. When you're driving from Grand Junction, Colorado to Norwood, Colorado, and you see 3 bighorn sheep sitting on the side of the road, those are animals very rarely ever spotted. A mountain lion 2 days later. The animals are being driven out of their habitat. Mm-hmm. So, and if I was an animal that was extremely secluded, I'd go north. I'd go north and adapt. Alaska, Canada, and again, we're talking dense forestry, but there's other things, like China has a Yeti, Canada's been screaming about it for years. The Native Americans I mean, Virginia, we call it Uncle Bob. We all get it, Isn't that right? But it's when somebody asks me why, it's why not? Like I said, with the crossing of the deer and the elk, Department of Wildlife out here is having a conniption.
Oh, I bet.
Well, and the guy who owns the Discovery Channel also lives in Gateway, Colorado. He has a huge home there, and he built a resort called Gateway Canyons. And he, on his personal property, imported a bunch of indigenous African animals. I'm not sure what the one's called with the spiral horns and whatnot, and he had Thompson gazelles and a few of those animals. Something happened and a couple of them got out and they intermingled with the indigenous herds. And I know that was a big deal. We don't know if any, conception was done, but I'm telling you what, I mean, a horse is a horse is a horse is a horse, you know what I mean? And like water buffalo and cattle and buffalo are fairly much the same creature. They really are. So, it's just progression of the species. The only the fit survive.
Well, talking about UFOs and aliens, you've got back from different cultures drawings and stories.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The same thing exists with cryptids. So you can't tell me that for all of these different cultures in all these centuries that people are just making this shit up.
Right. No, I don't think so either. I like the sea stories too. How they're always saying about the mermaids. It must have been manatees. I mean, dude, you have to be out to sea a long time to think that sea cow is a woman.
Yeah. So
not saying it's impossible.
What's wrong with you? We're talking about pterodactyls in Georgia. Really, Ted?
Well, no, seriously. Honestly, birds. They try to correlate birds as a direct descendant of dinosaurs, and you have to take in consideration that back then when dinosaurs roamed the earth, the gravity of the earth was different, and as the gravity increased, the animals have just have slowly shrunken in size. Everybody thinks it was one seismic event, but it had to have been a series of events. It had to change their food source, their habitat, all those types of things for them to evolve and change. I mean, God, look at the turtle and the dinosaur, the turtle and like a savanna monitor. Yeah. I mean, take a look at some of the reptiles. You can't tell me that that's not there. We got next to a golden eagle. I got next to a golden eagle about 6 months ago. They're huge, and I don't mean big. I'm 5'8". I'm not a little girl. And holy Christ, it scared me because, I mean, its head was probably where my belly button was, and it probably had a 6 or 8 foot wingspan.
Oh my God.
And it was beautiful, and it was going nowhere. It was like, it kind of looked at me like, and it was on a deer carcass, and I hacked on it. It was accidental, but oh my God. And just
like, you know what? You're a little bit bigger than I thought you would be because I'm used to seeing you from up here. No, I had no idea. And we have my husband's family is very good friends with somebody up here who used to do raptor rescue, and I'm infinitely just completely drawn to raptors. I like the red-tailed hawk and those types of birds. I don't know. It must be a totem animal or a spirit guide of mine. Like my daughter's name is Raven, for the love of God. I'm very drawn to those animals, and you can kind of see how the species has progressed. I mean, do you know what a copy is? Have you ever looked one up? No, I've heard of them, but I've never looked one up.
They're of a giraffe. I mean, they look like they've got the coloring of a zebra.
They're kind of, yeah, I know what you're talking about. They're kind of
huge though.
Yes,
they're huge though. They're bigger than human men, like 5, 6, 7, 5, 6 foot tall men. They'll tower over them, but they look like whoever was making animals had leftover parts
and just kind of put them together. Are they the ones that have the zebra legs?
Yes.
They've got them here at our zoo. Paisley and I saw them. No copy.
Yeah, me. Well, you got to, you see.
Somebody's like, is that? It's got a name.
It's an okapi. It's a descendant of a giraffe. I mean, so we're sitting here looking at all these modern day progressions. You know what I mean? So if we try to turn that clock back, what is it that we're missing? Truly,
I think about the Earth changing too. So how do we know that the aliens aren't coming here because of an atmospheric change? How do we know that the animals aren't changing and adapting and moving around so that they're kind of migrating everywhere? I mean, everything kind of goes back to one thing. everybody has to adapt and move around.
Candy is the NPS guru on the top of the mountain. Make me laugh. Seriously? Yes, I'm at 7,000 feet plus some, a little. But yeah, we get some weird stuff going on here. I live in the sticks.
You're so bad. I love Katie gets on. I might be off today. I got a 5-hour drive round trip, and we're all like, huh? And I'm kind of like, okay, she lives out in BFE, so think about that.
We live 30 miles southwest of Telluride, Colorado, and we live about 25 miles from Miramonte Reservoir. We live in a beautiful, beautiful place. Our town's got about 1,500 people, and it is an hour and a half drive to Montrose, to the Walmart, to the hospital, whatever, and we still own homes in Grand Junction, so that's 2.5 hour drive. So when I'm telling you I'm taking a drive, I'm not kidding. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I know, right?
People still get, they're like, well, I'll just PM Candy. Well, that's fine, but she's driving, so don't ask for anything.
You aren't going to get me while I'm in Uniwave.
We were texting yesterday. Are you getting my text? I think so. Getting some. Am I getting all?
You should get out of the car. I'll park the car and run across the road. My husband gets furious with me. He goes, get in the car. You know, I'm like,
okay, fine.
You know, and my husband had probably the most profound paranormal experience he's ever had on the drive of Uniwave Canyon. Yerevan, Colorado was this little town that actually was a booming town. It was the largest deposit of uranium in the world that was mined here in Colorado. However, it had substantial radiation issues, and the entire town was basically washed off the map. Well, and there's a point between Nucla, Colorado, and the end of Gateway Canyon. You go through this place called Mesa Creek that's owned by a large ranching family down here called the Weimers. And he saw a giant dog. A dog that when he was driving his pickup truck, the back side of the dog came clear up to the top of the hood of the truck.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, and he attributed it to some Indian legends around here. Frightened him enough that when, you know, my husband's this big 6 foot, 2 tall, very military, ex-military, tough guy, and he still has the hairs on his arm raised. And it's, you know, this whole area is, you know, covered, saturated in Indian history, and, you know, the wintering grounds were, you know, 3 miles from this house. Mm-hmm. So those experiences that he personally had, I mean, they really, really, they profoundly changed him. And so when we go around and we look at the area and stuff like that, we're avid hunters. And I know some people are, gasp, the animals, we eat it. Get a grip.
Get over it.
I know.
You ate a hamburger at Wendy's, shut up.
I died. I about died when I saw that. I saw a quote, I swear to God, it was by Nancy Pelosi about she didn't understand why we hunted because we could go buy beef in the store. I couldn't even dignify that.
I don't even have anything for that. You see me? I'm like, what?
I know, right? Well, you know, when we spend a lot of time out in the...
It's organic, free, I don't know.
Well, you know, and like I said, we spend a lot of time hunting. And, you know, I have to tell you, there's some things that just can't be explained out there, especially since the Burn Canyon fire happened out here. It was incredibly, incredibly, incredibly hot fire. It actually affected the ozone layer. It burned so hot. And just thousands of acres burned. And it drove the animals out. And, you know, even now, you know, we see some really strange crap that we can attribute to indigenous animals. Yeah. So do I think something else is out there? Sure enough. Do I think we're going to find it anytime soon? No. Do I think it is the world leader in hide and go seek? Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Reigning hide and go seek champion. Well, no.
Wow. That and my car keys.
That's bad.
I know.
I'm going to get you one of those little clapper things. There's actually a thing now that you can put on your keychain that goes on your phone. It's like a little wrap for your phone, and your phone can find your keys. That's what you need.
God, I hope so. Because, I mean, I think...
a signal, though, to be able to...
I think it's the cat. The cat is shady as hell. I am telling you right now.
It's always the cat. It is always the cat.
She's got that cross-eyed thing going on. I don't believe her.
Okay. Cats are evil, man. Why do you think they have 9 lives? Yeah, see, that's an evil-looking cat.
I know. Huh, cross-eyed and all that crap.
Tries looking. Me.
Lullybell. Sure.
She's like, now leave me alone. I got some shady shit to do.
I know, right? Oh, there's a grasshopper on the screen door. She's gonna go hang from my screens. Is what's going on.
I tell you what, Oreo's been going in Paisley's room and pulling out this one stuffed toy of hers and pulls it all the way in here in the office. I'm like, what are you trying to tell me? He just started doing that. I'm like, the dogs I can understand, but the damn cat? Seriously? I think
it's
the cat's better.
Right.
I saw a thing today. It was St. Peter standing at, his little pulpit, and there was a cat giving him his punch card, and he was punching 7, out of the 9 lives. And I'm like, shady fuckers. That's exactly what they are. Every single cat is like that. Why do you think they have 9 lives? They're a different kind of paranormal.
Right. Well,
speak of the devil. Well, hello there, Oreo.
I know, right?
You talk to me? Mm-hmm.
So what is your favorite cryptid, do you think?
I don't know. And see, I don't want to give away like what's coming up because I've seen them. But there's so many that I'm like, what the hell is that? And then I start looking, I'm like let me.
The Gaelics really have a list of cryptids that I was really surprised to see them, and the Hindis. I was really surprised to see the variety that the Masterless, the cryptid team came up with. I was really impressed.
Do you think that that certain cultures have more of a deeper belief in it than others?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Look at the Slavic group of the Slavics. The Ukraine and that area. They have an incredible belief in the mysticisms. They're gypsies, so they have an inherent belief of the power of the land and the magic and the people. So they don't question, the big vampires, werewolves. That's where that came from. We're actually, Vlad the Impaler is kind of where the vampiric thing came from. When he was trying to bring Christianity to those infidels, blah, 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 who wouldn't change. But, that area is just saturated with that type of stuff, and that was a hard life up there. The Norse, they have some very specific thoughts of the ocean and the mist, very, very mystically tied. In China, the power of China's belief is partially in the fact that they just had 3 times our population.
Mm-hmm.
They always have, and they've got such deep, rich cultural roots. Again, very spiritual people.
I was going to say.
Mm-hmm. And it's amazing to me, truly.
I was looking up some of these. I'm like, you know what? Is that really a cryptid? Wow, that's kind of cool, because we'll look at, and I'm going to kind of ruin it for next week, but there's one called the Skinwalker that I was like, what the hell is that? And I'm looking at the pictures and I'm reading about it and I'm like, okay, this is going to be an interesting week. There's just certain ones that you're like, you consider that a cryptid because you think cryptozoology, you think about, things that could be, but some of these things you're just like, how the hell could there be a Oh my God, is the cat over there being shady with the dog?
No, it's my son. Oh, sorry. You guys are going to get the whole gamut right now. Finn, no talking. Talus, go away.
Here we go. Okay, let's look at some of these. I'm kind of on the internet looking for some. The devil bird. Oh, now all of a sudden got real quiet. Look at her. Y'all, you think she runs NPS? She runs that house.
I pretend.
The kangaroo was once known as a cryptid.
Well, you know what? I want you to think about something. Think about being an early people and seeing something like the platypus. And then finding out
next?
Well, and then find out that it's poisonous. I never knew the platypus was poisonous. I was dumbfounded. Yeah, Steve Irwin was like, and it's
says non-lethal to humans. This venom, they actually have a venom, is excruciatingly painful and is not responsive to most painkillers.
Yeah, and it looks so cute and unassuming. They're so cute.
They are so cute. God, I never knew that about them.
Yeah.
The Komodo dragon, which I can kind of see that one being, a cryptid.
Dude, the Komodo dragons are extremely venomous. Their bites are so full of like bacteria and stuff like that. I saw a video where they killed a water buffalo like within 30 minutes, and it was disgusting.
But you know what? I mean, all of these creatures, think about where they live and what they eat and what they have to hunt. The Komodo dragon's got claws and stuff like that, but how is he supposed to take down his prey?
Bites.
So it's very interesting. The
they kind of pack hunt too. So they have a little clan and they'll run up and they'll bite. Like I said, we'll go back to that water buffalo video. They'd run up and bite its back legs, and one of them ran up and bit its front legs. And this water buffalo was kind of by a water source, and it didn't take any amount of time for that animal was ill, and terribly ill, and they ate it alive, which was that's where I kind of got off of the show. But it was very interesting.
I can pass on that. Well, you know what's number 2 on this list that was a cryptid? The okapi.
The okapi, I know, right?
It's on here. And then number
Don't
1.
Be hateful.
I love the okapi. I think they're cool. I love zebras, but I think they're cool.
And to figure out it gets as big as a giraffe. It gets not as big as a giraffe, but it gets between 6 and 7 feet tall. I can't believe it's. I think they're amazing creatures. They're gentle.
This is a list of 10 that. The title of this is 10 cryptids that turned out to be real. So how do we know that these list of cryptids, this 20-plus master list that the team came up with, that one day they're not going to be on this list that turned out to be real?
Right, fair enough.
Anything's possible. If this happened with 10, anything's possible.
Can you think about being on some kind of expedition in the early 1920s or 1910, and you saw some of this stuff, and you're coming, let's say, from the UK, and you get down to Africa, trying to actually, contemplate or, process that these are real creatures, I don't know. I know that there's stuff I still see that I'm aghast with, you know what I mean? Because how could that be? So... But I've also seen, our team had a report one time of a cryptid. And Colorado had, in about 10 years ago, had an issue with something called chronic wasting disease. It was a brain spinal disease that the deer and elk were getting. And they would basically emaciate, and their antlers or horns would they would not liquefy, but they would become softer. And these animals, they'd lose skin around their mouth, so their teeth would show. We had a report one time of somebody seeing a cryptid, and it turned out to be an animal that was suffering terribly, terribly. And so, I don't think we take into consideration a few things before we go classifying something as a cryptid. Do I think there's cryptids hiding in the dense forests of New Jersey? No, I'm sorry, I don't.
I think it's where they've got some land, something to survive off of.
And two, who says that it's, here we have all these claims. Who says it's not somebody that just is suffering from PTSD that hasn't fallen off the grid?
Yeah.
We don't. And, we think we're the only clever thing in the world. We've got more crutches. We've got more crutches than anyone knows, but it's like with the paranormal. I believe that if we take the time and we're diligent, we may discover some things. And, we may have lost our opportunity for some of these things that are now legends, something that once was. They ate megalodon, I guess. It was a megalodon whale or something like that. They just discovered one, 5-6 years ago. They thought it had been extinct for how long? There's still mysteries out there.
Yeah, there's just still so much. But, we've talked about the ocean before. There's so much to cover in the ocean that we can't even cover and get to. We have no clue. Bermuda Triangle, we talked about that during Ancient Mysteries Week. We really don't know, you know, what's down in those waters and what's down underneath there. There's so much left to be questioned. You know, I'm looking at some other cryptids, and these are 8 lesser-known cryptids. You know, the Mongolian death worm. This illustration looks pretty wicked. I'm probably never going to ever, not like I like to begin with, but look at a worm the same way. I'm not going to tell what this one is because we're going to cover this one. There's quite a few. Thunderbirds are on here. The skunk ape's on here, which we'll be talking about too. But I mean, there's just so many on here that it's like you can look at them and think, okay, was this a mix between 2 different animals? You know what I mean?
Do you remember National Lampoon's Vacation? That guy who had the white stripes on his head from getting hit by lightning.
Yes.
That's what makes me think of every time I hear them.
The skunk ape. It's so funny, you know, that we would think that this isn't possible. I mean, they are still finding classifications of species in the ocean every day.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, yeah, I think too about with the shifting of the plate tectonics and the heating of the Earth's core and the different volcanoes that are active. I mean, I don't. Our lives are, you know, such a short little blip. I don't think we give credence to the possibilities. Yeah, absolutely. And what has to evolve and how they evolve the animals around here to survive, you know? Mm-hmm. You know, like the wolves, like the wolf packs and the coyote packs. The coyote packs are a big deal because when I was a kid, you know, BLM, Federal Land Management, Department of Wildlife, they'd have 1 or 2 pups. You know, they never had big litters. Now they have litters of 5 and 6.
Yeah.
That's, you know, that's because of how their numbers have been hunted. You know, Mother Nature makes up for its own.
Yep.
So now the one thing I'm interested in, you know, with the cryptids is you always pretty much have to treat it like a UFO sighting, like a cold case, unless you're a first-hand witness. And going back and trying to get unbiased personal accounts is very difficult, you know. I wonder how we could formulate a better process for all of this.
I don't know, and I wonder how many people, you know, it's funny how on the ghost paranormal side of things, how people think, oh my gosh, something just happened. Why aren't we doing that when people are starting to see these cryptids? I mean, are you just that scared of what you're seeing that you're not taking a picture? I mean, I wonder how many more pictures we could get to surface. Not that I want to analyze them. Get enough with the orbs. But I mean, why are we not, you know, such a society now that we always have our cameras out and we're always taking pictures of stuff? Why aren't we seeing more pictures?
Well, see, and here's my problem with the pictures. People don't know how to use their equipment, camera phones that are completely alterable. And honestly, I have to tell you, you know, I'm turning into a monstrous skeptic in regards to any cell phone pictures or pictures, period. Nobody's taking them in successions of 3, you know. Having to battle someone, you know, over a dog hair because their house is too clean to have any kind of fibers floating around.
You know, if your house is that clean,
nobody's home is hermetically sealed. Everybody needs to get over it.
The hospital's not doing that.
No, here's.
But I just cleaned my house. Did you really? Did you literally just clean your house? Because did you spark up some shit in there? And is that a dog in the background? I mean, really?
Ooh. Well, you know, the parts per million, you know. Well, and the thing is too, you know, is if we can establish, you know, using photos, you know, we could establish baselines. If we could actually go 2 days without somebody altering a picture, you know, it might give us a, you know, more of a trusting position for evidentiary submission. You know, people, I know that on the NPS page, people get very frustrated because we ask questions. I get very frustrated because I have to ask the questions constantly.
Right.
You know, and I bet since I've been with NPS, I've probably seen 200,000, maybe 300,000 pictures. And if you figure that I'm seeing 40 to 50 a day, that's no small number.
Yeah.
The thing is that we feel our commitment is to conditioning everyone into asking better questions, thinking more for themselves. You know, we've grown by just an amazing amount this year. an amazing amount. And the thing is, we just didn't grow in the paranormal. The occult department's gotten bigger, the UFO and aliens. You know, we're touching a little bit of everything, and we want to be that non-biased source. And the things that we'd ask of any of our members, we ask of ourselves. I'm the worst critic. If I take a picture and I think something is interesting or different, I submit it out for peer review. And I don't get my feelings hurt, you know, because it's not personal.
Well, and now, you're emotionally attached to it, and I think that's the problem with
oh yeah,
people get emotionally attached to it. It's like, guys, if you're gonna put, how many times do I have to say it? If you're gonna put it on NPS, it's gonna get looked at, it's gonna get analyzed. We're gonna ask questions. You already know what you're supposed to include with it for the basic information, so put it there. Don't make us ask, and then be ready for people to tell you it's a dog hair, it's, you know, a camera strap, it's dust. Don't be offensive thinking that we think you're dirty, because that's not what it is. It's just it's something, but it's not paranormal.
Well, and I think people get emotionally attached because they have a perceived personal experience that went along with it. Now, in that, it's wonderful. That's perfect. So let's figure out how we can parallel it. Explain your personal experience along with the photo. The who, what, the where, the when, the why. Do you have a witness to these accounts, or is it just a feeling you got? And, you know, that's something that a lot of people think that, you know, we're not respecting, is that it's, you know, their personal feeling. Okay. You know, I'm going to tell you, I get personal feelings from shopping, ladies and gentlemen. Doesn't mean it's paranormal.
Yeah. I just don't get when people are like, but, okay, let's look at what we're looking at here, and how's it going to prove anything? The blurry pictures are killing me. Yeah, of course you do see something, because it's pixelated. And your mind's starting to look at it and go, oh, that looks like Jesus on toast. Like, come on, you know, give me a clear picture. And like you said, 1, 2, 3, you guys should be taking pictures 3 minimum in a row. I just don't get it. I do it. Everybody else should do it. You know, don't just submit me some stupid picture. And I'm sorry, but the one that was today, that was taken out the car window, do not tell me that you weren't moving and the window was down.
You know, there's many different explanations for that. That could also be heat distortion inside the car window, inside of the summer with the windows up. You know, that could cause
when the car's moving anyway.
Yeah. The thing is that, you know, people are desperate. I don't know if it's attention or if they're just desperate to have their views validated. I mean, your opinions are your opinions. They're your beliefs, and that is something private, personal, and absolutely your prerogative. And so I have some frustration when people get on there and say, because I'm psychic. Show me the metrics.
That doesn't hold anything for me. I'm sorry.
I personally believe that every human on the planet inherently has different senses and different levels of sensitivity. I believe that your personal experiences, you know, some people live very complicated, difficult lives, and they seem very successful in those trials and tribulations. You know, like Mom and Pop Jones, who've been together 65 years, you know, have a little house, and, you know, been through the Depression, the war, losing children. They're these magnanimously strong spirits. And then you got, you know, little Susie, who got her iPhone taken away and told no, she couldn't go, you know, on a $1,500 trip with her friends to the mall. You know, that's exacerbated for her, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I just, you know, I'm telling you what. Hello? Hey, can I call you back? I'm right in the middle of my radio show.
We're calling live.
I'm right in the middle of my radio show. I'm on live right now. Thanks.
Seriously.
No fucking kidding.
They don't get it. They just don't get it. Now, see, that's a paranormal occurrence.
I know, right? Candy's on the radio, everybody. Candy's on TV.
Oh my God, it's time for her show. Oh my God, let me. Candy.
Where's so-and-so? I don't know.
Do I look like his keeper tonight? I don't know. Maybe he's off playing with Bigfoot. They're playing hide and go seek.
I know. You know, you want to talk about cryptids? We got some bugs out here that I swear to God the crypto team should come freaking look at. I know wuss, but I swear to God, I swear to God, I caught a grasshopper like that big.
What?
And I was taking him out. Oh God, he was huge, and I put him in my hand. You know, I'm not a bug killer unless it's a cockroach. No place in my life.
Those things
But
totally annihilated.
I know. I take the grasshoppers, I catch them, and I take them outside. Well, I saw my cat backing up. You know, he's like, I went over there, and it was the biggest grasshopper I ever seen. Ellie was like, oh, hell no. So I went and got it, I took it out there. I was looking at it, and it was looking at me like it completely understood me, you know, and it makes me kind of wonder. I mean, what forest are we not seeing for the trees, you know?
Yeah, what are we missing? What's going on in our environment that things like a grasshopper are getting so big? You know what I mean? It just, yeah, they ain't no match for Texas mosquitoes.
I don't know. I've been to New Hampshire. They got those black flies and those ticks over there. Dude.
Gross.
I know, right? Not anything that bites, you know? I'm a live and let live kind of person, but if you bite me, you're getting it.
You're dead.
I know, right?
You're dead. It's kind of like the chiggers, man. We went out to
oh my God,
to the cemetery 3 weeks in a row, like back to back, and my ankles. One of the girls at work, I was so embarrassed. I was wearing a dress yesterday. She's like, "Bless your heart, did you get an ant bed?" I go, "No, those are chiggers." I had chiggers. No matter what I sprayed, I still had them all around my ankles.
Oh my God,
Yes.
I hate those. We got those so bad when we were in Oklahoma.
They're horrible. They're horrible. And I'm not, you know, it's 100 degrees here in Texas. I'm not wearing freaking pants out to go investigate.
Dude, chiggers, ticks, and mosquitoes are proof that our exes get reincarnated.
Right? Well, that may say a lot.
Blood suckers.
Yeah, something. I swear. I think some of those could be, I don't know, cryptids on their own, you know?
Okay.
Evil little shits that they are. I just don't get it.
How funny.
Who are we gonna, you know, bug next week to talk about cryptids on the show? I think it needs to be Ted.
I think so too.
I'm looking at the chat room.
Ted. Ted.
Ted, you better be ready next week to be talking about your department. Oh, he's talking about they got skeeters the size of birds. Ted, come on. You're coming on the show next week. You got to talk about cryptids.
Or them big-ass skeeters.
Them skirters. 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 I think you misspelled that. Skirters.
Skeeters, not skeeters.
Skeeters the size of birds. Man, I think that would be more than a freaking fly swatter.
Eddie and Jen! Oh!
You know what? I think we need a new chair for the crypto department.
Shy.
Come on, Ted. Can we sing the Skeeter song? Oh my God, is there a Skeeter song? See, now we're going to start getting crazy. No. I think Ted's coming on next week. Everybody's having this experience. It's not that bad.
I think we should. I think there should be some pressure put on him by the directors, possibly.
You know, I think we could handle that. We could do that as early as, I don't know, in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And come on, you can't lead the cryptid team and not come on and talk about it. It's got to be something you're proud of.
Darn department chairs.
I mean, come on, Eddie faced his fear and he came on and he was awesome. Buffy, I'm so glad I'm not staff. Yeah, well, Buffy, you wait till we do the members.
Could be.
And then you win it.
You could be. You could be in such an evasive pain. Damn, Buffy.
She is, man. She's a little shit.
You know what?
Ted, I think you'll do great. Ted keeps pushing Eddie and Jen. We're going to have Ted on.
She'll just find herself in the training department going, what happened?
Yeah, exactly. Buff would be like, how the hell did I get here? Sherry, Candy.
Osmosis.
You wanted it. You got it.
Cryptids added you. You know, we've got NPS cryptids. We call them minions.
Yes, we do. She's saying, hell no. I think we should just go ahead and add her. She's out there enough.
I know, right?
See what happens when you're out there so much that the directors notice you? You become a rep. Like, she's like, Sherry.
One or two eyed minions, whichever ones will come to us. We're not picky.
We'll take them both. We love them all.
Right.
put the one-eyed over cryptids, and we'll put the two-eyed over aliens.
Cycloptic minion. Hey, that would make Ted Groob.
That's his new nickname. You know what? If you're not going to come on the show, we've got to start poking.
I know.
So, Ted, what are we going to talk about next week? All of a sudden, he's disappeared.
I know. Your silence is deafening. We know you're there.
I'm going to start calling you out on the page. Buffy says she'd be fired in 2 seconds. She's got to sit on her hands too much.
Oh, really?
Some of us have to bite our tongue.
That hurts.
And put the horns away and keep the tail not curled up.
Turn into a big old dragon. I know, right?
It happens.
Oh, I know. Especially when, it's... And I appreciate it. What happened?
Ash just sent me the Skeeter song. I'm going to have to, send this to you in a PM. We're not singing this on the air. Thanks.
No ads on Tuesdays. Eric, are you still doing that to me? You've been bugging me about that for 2 years now.
No ads, only on Tuesdays. Hey, everybody's got it down now. It took forever.
I know, right? Honestly, it worked out pretty quickly. And, and the people it matters to, they take good care of us.
Well, it's funny because at one point we were talking about doing all together away with them.
Yes.
So you got so lucky we even still have them.
Right. Absolutely. We've evolved. You know what I mean? NPS is growing up, and it's actually setting the standard. I see a lot of people attempting to imitate us.
I love it. And I love how everybody's like, oh, those mean people over there, they're just skeptics. They don't believe, da-da-da-da. Okay, because we asked you to quantify something, or we asked you to substantiate your claim, or we asked you, or we showed you. No, that's definitely dust. And so you're going to get your panties in a wad and you're going to run away. Not my problem. If you want to go process somewhere else, have fun with that.
Absolutely. If you want to start a new group, we absolutely support you and wish you the best of luck and hope that, you can, that you can function to the standards that you
Right.
hope for your group. There can't be too many groups out there doing the right thing. There really can't. And I support you in that 100% because NPS isn't for everybody. And, sometimes people need maybe a more sensitive forum. And, personally, I've seen that need grow with people who are still dealing with some issues or maybe newer investigators and researchers. We do get people coming in that are, like we said, emotionally attached to their evidence or to their situation. And people, are dealing with things.
And I think it's funny how, you guys think that NPS is just this small group, and I don't think anybody actually pays attention to the number on the side that says 37,000. So when you've got a group of 37,000 members, we do have to have rules in place, and we do ask for certain things. Now, if you want to start your own group, have at it. Let me know when you get to the growing pains, and you figure out that you're going to have to put some rules in place, too. I mean, that's just what it comes to.
Yeah, and NPS wasn't like that when it first started. Actually, we didn't start putting the rules really in place until we hit about 2,000 members. And then they got revised a little bit when we hit 5,000, and they've pretty much been the same. We've added a few here and there since 12,000. But we've gone from 12,000 to 37,000 in 9 months, 8 months.
I was going to say it's been less than that because it's been since January.
Yeah, we doubled, tripled in size.
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, when you're dealing with a forum that big, you have to work to facilitate as many people as possible and still work towards your goal. And like I said, with the group, with people breaking off to have new groups, best of luck, and I support you 100%.
When it starts coming around that you guys start experiencing the growing pains that we have, you'll get it. You'll get it.
It's basically, a very simple setup, Don't be disrespectful. Don't block the admins. No ads except for on Tuesdays. And if you're going to put up... you're gonna have to substantiate it. I mean, we're about taking the group forward. And I'd love to see some more cryptid submissions from the members themselves rather than just, education from the reps. And that's one thing I have to give kudos to the representatives of NPS. They are tirelessly working to bring you information regarding our field. And it's not like, we're doing neurology and it's just this one part of science or this one part of the medical field. We've got the cryptids, ancient mysteries. We have got the gamut right here of everything that we haven't quite proven yet. So, I mean, it's, we're throwing rocks at this great big lake right now, but we're getting better at, and I think
we're covering it a lot better.
Oh yeah. And we've got some really dedicated reps and the, assistant directors and directors. Oh my God, they work tirelessly. Ken and Alex and Sherry and David do an amazing job. And then you got Rob and Alan Marsden. He's just the coolest. And Dan. He does a great job. We've got the international group moving forward too. We've got such a huge foothold going on right now. It's hard to believe that, we've gone as global as we have. So,
and as fast as we have. It's been like I was telling you, I put out my team name, on the Tuesday ad, and within just a matter of days, we grew like a ton of likes. And the majority of them were international teams. So it's really starting to grow. They wouldn't have found out about my team had I not posted on NPS, so that tells you we are touching internationally.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy. Well, we got about 5 minutes, so do you want to touch on Endeavor while we've...
Sure.
A couple minutes?
Well, in August, we are going to be launching the NPS Endeavor project, which is going to be information gathering project on a global scale. We're asking teams and individuals that are listed on the NPS website to follow a certain set of intake questions and to post those findings and that information on the NPS website. We're going to take those metrics and we're going to start to try to establish a baseline. The information is going to be anonymous, except for the team submitting them or the individual submitting them. We're formulating still a process to how we can make sure that the person submitting the information isn't just giving us false information. So, but these are going to be questions as to, 35-year-old white male that lives in, at this zip code. Find out if he's had any health issues, what health issues specifically, high blood pressure, heart disease, that type of stuff. Also, if they've had medical conditions, PTSD, substance abuse, those types of things. Find out a little bit about the location itself and about the weather patterns there. And what we're going to be using is a weather program and part of the U.S. Geological Survey to see if we can get a topographical to find out about mineral water wells, that type of stuff, those deposits. We're going to be doing this on a large scale and see what kind of data we can collect. This is a long-term project, and it's the first of its kind on this scale. I don't expect mind-blowing results in the first 6 months, but in the first year to 2 years, I really think that we can bring the fringe sciences bring the paranormal investigations to a baseline. I really think we can, to see if we're having more of these experiences with, pregnant women in their mid-30s, or if, this type of experience is happening, after a lightning storm to African Americans, anything like that. We're trying to see if there's certain cultural groups or spiritual groups or anything like that that are having more of these experiences. And I'm excited about people participating. My brainchild
is excited to participate because we've had a lot of questions about it.
Yeah, and I know I've been very vague. I know I've been very, very vague, and I've had to be until the components in the website were set up by our web god, Ken Weigland. And he's done an amazing job. I gave him an idea, and he picked up the ball and just ran away with it.
With that.
I know, right? And people, I think people take for granted the range of people that we have. We have engineers at NASA. We have firefighters. We have administrative executives. We have all sorts of people working for NPS, nursing students. We've had, We had doctors working for us. We've had, attorneys working for us. We really reach higher and work a little harder. And, even the retired people at home are working with us. If we all put in on this and we're all honest, we might find exactly what it is. We might be able to pinpoint that niche that's going to push us forward. We're also offering the opportunity for an evidence review, third-party, non-biased evidence review. That will be a succession of 3 photos in a row. That will be 30 seconds of audio or 30 seconds of video. And it will be submitted to some team members who will not ever be revealed, so that it is completely anonymous. You can't get a hold of them and say, dude, what do you think of this? Their final word's their final word. And it's that the evidence submission is going to stand completely alone on its scientific factors. Now, the personal experiences, you had the opportunity to submit that, and that will be stored and archived in parallel, but it won't be counted. So I'm very excited about this opportunity.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot going on with it, and we'll see, a little bit more. The education piece of the website's been waiting to launch until Endeavor goes. And so you guys will see a lot of that kind of working hand in hand, as it should.
Yes, absolutely. Finally bringing some standardization to some of the documents and things like that people can search out when they're formulating new teams, what questions should be asked. I mean, seriously, we couldn't have been any more thorough.
God. Yeah. If
got it all, baby.
While, we have been pretty damn thorough on it.
And it's work, ladies and gentlemen. That's what investigation and research is. It's work. It's not showing up with a flashlight and a digital audio recorder pretending that you're doing something. Throwing glitter around the house. Seriously, if you showed up at my house like that, I'd have stun gunned you. Seriously. Right at the front door.
Let's see what happens with the glitter when I do this. Bzzz.
I know, right? Conductor, baby!
So, yeah, it's going to be something. As soon as it's ready to go, you guys, we'll talk about it here first. You heard about it here first, so we'll talk about it here first when it's ready to go. So, Candy, I got showtime. You want to kind of close us down? We're going to have Ted on next week. He did say he would come on. So we are going to have Ted on next week, and then we'll have Jen and Eddie on probably the next week after that to talk some more.
Nice. All right. Well, our sponsors are Blessed Be, www.blessedbe.cc. It's your one-stop occult shop. If you need sage, crystals, stones, books, cauldrons, advice, you can find us there. And also, we are brought to you by the National Paranormal Society. My nice director, Sherry Collins, who works her butt off, Alex, Ken, David, and all of the reps, on behalf of all of us, thank you for all that you do and for coming to us and trusting us with your time and efforts. We look forward to seeing you there. National Paranormal Society on Facebook and www.national-paranormal-society.org. See what we're about.
We'll see you guys on the wall.